Guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. In today's video, guys, I am going to be doing a full review, finally, it's been a while since we've done one of these, on the new Thanksgiving movie. Now, before I get on to this review, hopefully that doesn't mess up my mic. Before I get on to this review, there is going to be a lot of content coming your way for the rest of this year. I am on the grind with watching movies, and so there's going to be a lot of movie reviews. I am trying to reach a goal of watching at least 50 movies in total between streaming and in theaters, but also it would be really awesome if I could reach 50 movies in total just in theaters. That would be absolutely insane. With last year, I think I only watched like 20-something movies or whatever. So going from that to like doubling it this year would be really, really crazy if I could do that. So that's what I'm trying to do this year, and so expect a lot of movie-related content for the last portion of this year, as well as there's going to be some rankings for the movies, our annual tier list as well. So there's going to be a lot of juicy content coming your way at this last portion of the year. And so, yeah, make sure you stay tuned for that. Other than that, not a whole lot of announcements to make. This should be a bit of a quicker review. Not a very complex movie. Not a whole lot of things to dive really deep into. So, Thanksgiving, I was instantly sold on this movie as soon as I saw the trailer. So it actually was one of my most anticipated movies of this month. Other than Napoleon, because I think it will probably be a much more higher quality film, this movie is absolutely for me. As soon as I saw the trailer, and at the ending of the trailer, the dude sitting at the dinner table says, "Let's eat," I was like, this movie is exactly for me. And if you're somebody who came to this movie to watch a B movie horror slasher with over the top gore and a lot of good action, kind of like Violent Night from last year, you will be satisfied. You will not be disappointed. This movie absolutely delivers on that point. So I just want to say right off the bat, despite some of the critiques that I have for this movie, I think overall this movie is definitely just satisfactory in that regard. And so there's not really going to be a whole lot of major issues for this movie. If you came for that reason, you're already going to be satisfied. So to explain the plot for those of you who have not watched this movie, basically our main character, her dad owns a large retail store, kind of like Walmart, and is planning to have a big sale on Black Friday, but it goes completely wrong. A bunch of people get injured, and some people even die during this incident. And so this movie at the beginning fast forwards a year later, and the daughter is hesitant about him reopening the store on Black Friday to have that huge sale again, despite the fact that he has a lot more safety measures and security guards in place, because there's starting to be people going missing in the neighborhood, and people getting killed, and weird posts being posted online, posts going online about some of the people who are being killed by this guy wearing a John Carver mask. I'm sure you saw it in the trailer. And basically he's like I believe he's like one of the first pilgrims to settle in the new, or something like that. Related to the original feast between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. So that's kind of how he ties into the whole Thanksgiving theme of this movie. And so, yeah, basically, she's hesitant about that, and so we kind of have a bit of a murder mystery slasher type of deal going on here. And so that's the plot. Not very complex. We've obviously seen it before, but like I said, if you came to this movie for the reasons I listed, you're not going to be let down. Into the positives, getting the obvious things out of the way. The gore in this movie, very, very good. That over-the-top gore that you were probably looking for, you're not going to be let down. A lot of good kills in this movie, some unique kills that kind of tie in with the Thanksgiving theme that I really, really enjoyed. A lot of good chase sequences as well, where, we got the antagonist obviously chasing after somebody in this movie that were pretty intense, and I enjoyed. This movie is also very, very quick pace, gets to the action right away with that cold opening of the Black Friday sale going wrong. You're like, oh, like it really kind of makes your stomach churn with like, you didn't expect it to go that way. So it was a really, really good cold opening, gets the ball moving really, really quick. I say that with an asterisk, though, because I do have a few critiques that I'll talk about later. But for the most part, this movie is very, very quick paced, gets to the action right very, very quickly, and there's not a whole lot of downtime in this movie. You're constantly being fed that stuff that you want out of this movie. And so I really, really liked it for that reason. But a few extra things that I did not expect out of this movie, and well, a few things that I wanted, that I came to this movie for, that maybe not everybody did, was the dark humor. Like I said, that line in the trailer where the dude's sitting at the dinner table and he's like, "Let's eat." I was like, this movie is going to be for me. And so it just has a lot of edgy, dark humor thrown into it that I really, really enjoyed. Now, there are some movies where I don't want that, obviously. In Saw X, I think they had just enough of it, and I'm glad that they didn't go overboard with it. But in this movie, they can feel free to go just completely overboard with it, because this movie knows exactly what it is. It's a B-movie slasher, and so I really enjoyed that part of this movie. A lot of really good dark humor in here. There's also quite a few memorable characters as well, which I wasn't expecting. You know, being a B-movie slasher, you don't really expect there to be any standout characters. But our final girl in this movie, the daughter of the dad who owns the big retail store, I think she did a pretty good job. I'm not very familiar with that actor, but I think she did a very, very good job in this movie. Had some pretty badass moments, especially at the back half of this movie, and so I really enjoyed that. And also a few memorable side characters in here. There's like this nerdy kid who's like fills up research papers for this jock, and he's like putting up posters for this teen drinking party that his friend's hosting. I thought that was really funny. And speaking of that, his friend who's hosting the teen drinking party is like this kind of redneck pro Second Amendment guy who like some really memorable moments in here. He like fires off a shotgun in front of the police after like you're having like this very, very intense kind of sad conversation going on, and then just out of nowhere fires out the shotgun. He's like, "Woo!" I don't know. I really like that. But probably the most memorable scene is when they're having that teen drinking party that I was talking about, and some like really, really young kids are trying to get into it, like 14, 15 maybe. And he asks them like this basic pop culture question, and they don't get it right. And he's like, "No, you're not allowed in here. Get out of here." So that was probably like one of the big standout scenes with him. And then after that, like the main characters come in, and they get some like weapons from him. He's got like that secret stash that you see in some of those movies. He's got some like really, really beefed up weapons to fight off the antagonist in this movie. So a lot of really funny, memorable scenes with him. And so, yeah, I was surprised that there were some actually standout characters in here that I really enjoyed. So moving on from the positives, going into the mixed category, which most of the time I skip this, but I didn't think it was enough to be a negative. So, like I was saying with the pacing of this movie, I said with an asterisk, because the last 15 to 20 minutes of this movie, I think arguably could have been handled a little bit better. After this like huge major scene that had been we had been building up to for the latter half of the movie, it really, really starts to slow down, which on one hand, I was like, I noticed it, and I was like, no, I don't want this movie to end already. I was like, I just want to keep going. I'm having a lot of fun. But on the other hand, you really could start it to notice it to slow down, and it kind of dragged along a little bit. And so I think that maybe it could have been handled a little bit better. But other than that, I didn't think it was enough of a problem for me to put it into the negatives. So getting on to the negatives finally, there was one thing, first of all, that somebody had actually pointed out in a out-of-theater reaction I had watched, and I don't know like what exactly was the reasoning for it, but they said that they had kind of an issue with the dialogue in this movie, which I had kind of remembered. I was like, yeah, I didn't remember that, but now that you say that, I was like, oh yeah, that was something that was kind of in the back of my mind for a while watching this movie. And so I'm not sure if their problem was just regular interactions between the characters, or the fact that there was a lot of excessive like vulgarity in this movie, and like cussing and things like that. And it was always like usually between like two characters like fighting at each other, and like, you know, arguing with each other and things like that. And it just kind of got annoying and irritating. I don't think it was quite at a level, like, at a Rob Zombie's Halloween, like, opening level. But, I don't think it was quite at that level, but it was still enough to, like, be noticeable. And as somebody who usually doesn't have, like, a huge problem with that in, like, rated R movies, when I start to notice that, and it really starts to get excessive, that's how you know it is kind of an issue in this movie for me. Like, two major scenes, like one where these two jocks are like fighting with each other outside of the retail store. It was either the retail store right before they were about to go in, or it was like when they were going into this like party or something. Like, I can't remember, but they were like fighting at each other, and I was just like, this is just too much. Just shut up. And then another one that was even more annoying was, and I'm not sure if they were like cussing at each other a lot, but it still kind of annoyed me a little bit. Was so our main character has kind of not really two boyfriends, but essentially her ex-boyfriend who got injured in that incident from the year prior. Comes back in later in the movie, and her new boyfriend, isn't a big fan of him. I'm sure you get where I'm going there. And so they have some kind of back and forth in this movie, which, and I'm pretty sure if I remember, there was some excessive cussing in there as well, which I wasn't a huge fan of. And like I said, I know this sounds very nitpicky, especially because it's a rated R movie, but I'm usually, like I said, it's usually not a huge deal for me, but it's when it's at that level, that's how you know it's an issue, because I usually don't have a huge problem with it. You have to really, really push the bar to make me kind of get irritated at it. And I think even my brother, who I was watching this movie with, was kind of like, just shut up. Like, let's move on from this, please. Negative that I have for this movie, as I said earlier, this does have that murder mystery aspect to it. And so I'm sure the question in the back of your head is probably, was the killer reveal obvious, or was it actually a good killer reveal? Was it a good twist or whatever? And it was very, very obvious. The first couple scenes that I see the killer in, some of the lines that they say, I was like, that's the perfect killer motive. I was like, I don't care what red herrings you try to throw me, whatever you try to throw at me, you're not going to convince me that they are not the killer. And I trusted my instincts, and I was right at the ending of the movie. So it was very, very obvious. And so, yeah, just wanted to get that out of the way for any of you who had a question on that. But that doesn't drag this movie down a lot for me. Like I said at the beginning of the review, this movie already gave me all that I wanted, delivered for anybody who was coming to this movie for that over-the-top gore and all that other stuff. And so already you're going to be satisfied no matter how many issues you have with this movie. And those are just minor issues for me. I'm a movie reviewer, so I'm supposed to throw in a few critiques here and there. But if you came here for that over-the-top gore, that B-movie horror slasher, you're not going to be let down at all. And so despite those few criticisms, like I said, it doesn't drag down this movie very much. In fact, I'm going to give it... getting onto the rating here, I'm actually going to give it a little bit above average. I'd say like an average score is like 7 out of 10. I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10 just because there were a few elements in here that I was not expecting and that I really, really liked. Particularly having some standout characters, a lot of dark humor, which I really, really enjoy, and some pretty badass scenes as well. And so I really had a good time with Thanksgiving. I am a big fan of Thanksgiving. I think it's kind of an underrated holiday, and so I enjoyed some of the fun that this movie had with the Thanksgiving theme. And so overall, you will not be let down with this movie. If you watch the trailer and you instantly wanted to watch it. And so overall, there's not much more to say. Don't want to drag along too long here. And so make sure you stay tuned for the future reviews. There's going to be a lot coming your way with this last portion of the year as we wrap up 2023. I can't believe that this year, I know it's cliche to say that, but I honestly cannot believe with how much I've done this year that it is almost coming to an end here. It's been a long but also quick-paced year for me. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like and subscribe, guys, and I will see you next time.